Hello, students, and anyone else who may be watching from home. This is Mr. Borges, also known as Zanzolo, and today we're going to be talking about our next project in Scratch called Return of the Clones. And this project builds on things we learned in a previous project called Raining Clones. So we're going to do more with clones in this project, and then we will do more with clones in a future project called Kaboom. Probably, I think between Thanksgiving and Christmas, probably. All right. I'm going to go ahead and click this button, Return of the Clones, and here we are. You can see just a silly animation here of Rick pushing the button on a Meeseeks box. All right, that was how I make clones in Rick and Morty. We make clones in Scratch with code, and that's what we'll be doing. So we're going to start our next Scratch project. We'll learn more about having our code make copies of itself with clones. Here's the video you're watching right here, which you can always pause, fast forward, and rewind to help you make the project, a checklist of everything I look for when grading, and an example project. Although I'm going to go ahead and pop this up to full screen so we can talk about it. So here we see Scratch Cat and their kid. Scratch Cat's kid is just moving back and forth, very much like the ball did in our dodgeball project, except it doesn't even have an interesting angle. Just bouncing up and down, and no other instructions for it. If on edge, bounce, the end, and move. That's it. Scratch Cat doesn't really have any instructions either. Scratch Cat's eyes are just did for fun. I will show you how I did that at the end of the project if you want to mess around with something like that, but that's not the point of the project either. The point of the project is that Scratch Cat throws a push space, Scratch Cat throws a ball. Now, if the kid catches the ball, you get a point. Now you can see if I miss the ball, I lose a point. So I haven't hit the kid yet, so I'm losing all these points. Now I'm going to start trying to throw the ball to the kid, and I'm getting more points. Now, since I'm only throwing them on one at a time, we didn't really need clones to do this project, but I can throw them faster. So I can throw them so that there's multiple softballs on the screen at the same time. That's not something you can do. I'm losing a lot of points. You can hold down space also to really just spam. And that was something like, see, I have like 18 points now. Here, I'm just miss on purpose. And now I have like negative 280. So it really did throw like 200 and whatever, 260 something softballs in that big group. That went by, it was nearly 300 clones. It was all the clones. That's actually why it stopped. The only reason it stopped is because that was the maximum. It had maxed out with how many clones the game hit the clone cap. So until the clones were deleted, it couldn't make any more. And that's why you see this happen. Clone cap, and then they delete themselves, then they start making more again. But that's why you see those gaps. If there was no clone cap, there'd be no gap, but it would almost certainly lag out just about any computer. Okay, so we're going to talk a bit about how we would make this project. And let's go back to the checklist. So your project, we're making a game. We're making a simple game. Maybe I should have made that the number one. I want you to make up your own simple game. Could be a tank game, could be some other kind of a shooting game, or throwing things game, or catching things game. You could instead, you could control, just like we learned about the maze project, you could control the kid with the up-down keys, and then have the Scratch Cat just randomly, with a wait in between, maybe waiting a random amount of time, create those clones so that they were coming randomly, and your job to catch them. Maybe they might get sent in different random directions, or who knows, whatever else. Right? I want you to come up with your own idea, make your own simple game that's going to use this idea of clones, right? I should have probably put that as the number one thing. So what are the ideas of clones? So you're going to have a sprite. I used a softball. And instructions for the clones. You're going to have good clone management. So you delete clones when you don't need them anymore to save memory, meaning they don't just pile up here on the edge of the screen and then you can't make any more, right? Your clones need to move somehow. They're not going to just get created and sit still and pile up on top of each other in one place either. That is boring. you're going to have a better title than untitled and some instructions, and then you'll submit this to Canvas. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead then and create a project that does these types of things. So here's Scratchcat. We can just go ahead and use Scratchcat. I think what I did was I used to make Scratchcat's kid. We can just duplicate. You do not have to make Scratchcat and Scratchcat's kid. Okay, I'm just remaking the same project that we made before. So you just have a smaller Scratchcat over here. You decide how big you want them to be. We're going to write some code for them. When the green flag is clicked, they're going to do something over and over forever. They're going to move, right? And I realize I'm going pretty fast here, but we've talked about a lot of these things before. I'm going to have Scratchcat move, and I want them to move up and down. So at the beginning, I'm going to tell them to point in the direction up. And then if they're on the edge, I want them to bounce. So we're going to have something like this, which is pretty close to what we wanted, except we're going to just set the rotation style. Now you can do that either under direction by here picking do not rotate, which is one way to do it, right? Or you can do it programmatically with the block by setting the rotation style at the beginning of your project to do not rotate. Now those two things do the same. All right, so that's basically it for Scratchcat's kid. We're going to come up with some kind of a background, right? Whatever, you're going to think about what you want that to be. I've got Scratchcat here. I did tell you I was going to mess around. I'll show you what I did with Scratchcat's eyes just for fun at the end, but that's not really very important. So we're going to have a sprite. I just picked the baseball. I think I'm going to make it seems like it's really huge right now, so I'm going to make it smaller, but you don't have to. We're going to decide where I want it to go. This is where I want it to start. So I'm going to put it there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, when the green flag is clicked, I don't want this to show. I don't want the original clone to just sit here all the time and then have other copies of it fly off, but have the original just sitting here all the time. I don't want that. So I'm going to tell it to hide. Or maybe I'll save that hide block for the end so you'll really get a better idea of why we want that to be there, right? Then, when space key is pressed, we're going to have the clone create a clone of itself. The original is going to create a clone of itself. So every time I push space, we get another ball. Now, what do we want the ball to do? Well, the ball is going to be an exact copy of this. So it's going to start there. That's where I do want it to start. Although I'm going to tell the original to go there just in case something goes wrong later on. It will. Wait, what happened? Put the ball where you want it to go. Then get this go to block out so that then if it moves and I click the green flag, something very strange is happening. I want the ball. I want the ball to go here. Oh, it's because the project is running. Gosh, I forgot about that. These numbers, it's an important point because you may run into the same thing yourself, and I forget sometimes. I've always told my students these numbers for these go-to blocks, they update themselves automatically when you move the sprite. They do, but not when the project is running. So because the project was running, see these numbers right here, it's -108. When I'm moving this sprite around, this is not updating itself. Those numbers are not updating. And that was the problem I just faked myself out with. As soon as it stopped, now that the project is stopped, anytime I move this ball, these numbers are updating when I move the sprite. So now we're going to move it to where we want it to go. And then we can get out our go-to block. Hey, if you remember that, you'll save yourself some headaches. I actually forgot that for a minute. Okay. Then, when space key is pressed, we're going to create a clone. Sure. And we have to write instructions for the clones. So when I start as a clone, what should the clones do? Well, I want the clones to move this way, right? This is the X direction. So we're going to repeat a change in the X direction. We want to go that way, which is positive X. So we're going to change X by a positive amount. Some number of times. I'm not really sure how many times. I don't really know. Right, but what we can do is then we can say, but it doesn't matter. What we're going to do is we could actually even, it's probably not a best practice, but we could just say, just to guarantee that it gets to the edge, we could just say do it forever. We don't ever want that to happen forever, though. We definitely want it to stop at some point. So how are we going to stop it? Right? So we can stop it by saying if touching sprite 2, which is the kid, right? And so I'm going to rename these so I don't get mixed up later. This is the cat. This is the kid. So if, for the baseball, if touching the kid, we can have it delete itself, right? We want to delete this clone. But that's also when we want to get a point. If the kid is touching the ball as the ball moves across, yeah, have the ball delete itself, but that's when we should get a point. So I'm going to add a score. I'm going to go to the variables, make a variable, and I'm going to name this score, but you could call it points or some other thing. Right. And we're going to decide how to initialize this variable. So we're going to set it. When the green flag is clicked, we're going to set it to start at what we want. In this case, I want it to start at 0, but not all variables do. If it was health, maybe it would start at 100. Or if it was ammo, maybe it would start at some other number. For this being points, for it being the score, we're going to have it start at 0. And then, if touching kid, we're going to change score by 1 and then delete the clone. So that's pretty good. We're going to go ahead and run this, and you'll see a couple of things. One I don't like is that this ball's in the Scratch Cat's hand all the time, and that's why I was getting this hide block out. Now you can see why I was talking about that. So let's go ahead and put the hide block in here, and then click the green flag again. Now the original is not showing that way, but I can still throw a ball whenever I want, but they're invisible. So I'm going to have to tell the clones to show. When you start as a clone, show. Now, when I click the green flag, now when I push space, I can throw a ball. So that's pretty good. Now, if Scratch Cat's kid catches the ball, and I missed again. Scratch Cat's kid touches the ball, I'm getting a point. Well, I'm terrible at this. Okay. So there we go. 5. I think I used up all my clones already. And what does that mean? It means all these clones, there's a clone cap, right? So you're limited by 300 clones. I actually have 300 clones all sitting over here on the edge of the screen right now. Right? There's so many of them all just piled up right here. What I need to do, and I can't make any more if I push space because I'm at the clone cap. Here, let me show that again, right? So now all the clones are gone. Here's my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever else. But if I hold this down, then they're all spamming out there at once. And I've really only been able to make one more now. If I miss, now I can't miss. There we go. Now I have no more clones that I can make. We need to also tell the clones to delete themselves if they're touching the edge. Now, they made a change to Scratch that makes that really easy to do. We're going to add another if block. I'm just going to duplicate this right here, and we're going to change this a little bit. We're going to say if touching, not the kid, if touching the edge, we don't want to get a point, so I'm going to take this piece out, but we still do want to delete the clone. This is our other if block, our other conditional test, our other thing that we're going to check. So it goes inside the forever loop. We need to check them both over and over and over. What does the ball do? When it starts as a clone, show yourself. Forever move until one of these two things happen. Either you're touching the kid, and then you get a point and delete yourself, or you're touching the edge of the screen, and then you delete yourself. So that's why this is not really forever. Right? We don't ever want any of them to really move forever. So we have some way of making sure they're always deleting themselves. This is an extra now. So we're going to go ahead then and try this out. Click the green flag. And if Scratch Cat misses, you can see the ball is just deleting itself. And that's how we are going to make it sure that we never hit the clone cap. And then we can't throw any more softballs. So that's pretty good. And this could be your whole game. One thing that I did for fun was I penalized the player for missing. So instead of just getting a 0, you could actually take away points for missing. That happens right here. If touching the edge, You can get a variable block. We can change the score. I think what I did was I just changed it by -1, but you could do something else. Maybe you lose 10 points for missing. Maybe that's a huge penalty. I mean, it's up to you. You can create your own games, right? Maybe you're playing basketball. Maybe these are 2 or 3 pointers, so it might not be a 1 here. You have control over that, right? That is basically the whole idea. You get yourself a better title. Right, get yourself a better title. You're going to get yourself some instructions, right? Get some instructions in here. You have to explain, that you're gonna whatever it is, press space, get points, whatever it is. You're gonna explain your game. You're gonna explain your game, right? Better instructions than this, right? Just trying to go fast because I don't want this video to be too long. So you'll write better instructions, get yourself a better title, share your project, and you'll be ready to turn it in then to Canvas, right? I think everybody knows how to do that. Ask me if you're not sure. So the last thing I wanted to include in this video was just kids always ask me, what was going on with Scratch Cat's eyes? How did you, in the example project, you had Scratch Cat, you had the Scratch Cat's eyes were following the Scratch Cat's kid. Like, how did you do that? And so that was just the thing I was messing around with. And so I'm just going to show that now here at the end of the video. What I did was I clicked on the Scratch Cat. I ungrouped them, ungrouped their head so that I can then get their eyes as a separate piece, right? Then what I did was I clicked on the eye and I ungrouped the eyes. So now the eyes can go as separate pieces. And what I did then was I deleted, or you could just copy, I suppose, or cut out the thing of their eyes. So now there's a zombified Scratch Cat or whatever else. But then what I did was I created a new sprite and I pasted in whatever that little speck of an eyeball was. And I think I made it just a little bit bigger because you can't really see it very well. So let's just go ahead and make it bigger like that or something. Right. And then what you could do is you could just put it right on the center, but then it wouldn't really do anything that's that interesting. So the trick of what I wanted to do, and eventually I'm going to move it so it's inside Scratch Cat's head over here. But then what I did was I took this sprite off from the center a little ways. I don't think very much, but I don't remember. A little bit off of center. Right? A little bit off of center like this. And then I wrote an instruction where I said, okay, eyeball, the only thing I really want you to do is forever and ever point towards the kid. Point towards the kid. And then we run this. And then you can see the eyeball is already kind of doing something. Now, I want it to be a little bit more over here. So you move it over there or something. And that's the idea, basically. Something like that. Now, if the kids may be going too fast, is maybe making the eyes go, a little bit dizzy or whatever else, like they're going a little bit too much, but you can adjust those, maybe I'm going to move the eyeball up a little bit here or something like that, or, have some control. If you move it out a little bit more, then they're not going to, if it's closer to the center like this, then you won't see as much movement, which might be nice, or might be what you want, maybe won't. Whoopsie. You do have to worry about layers, though, now. You don't want Scratch Cat to be over its eyeball. Right, and you can play around with stuff like that. Right? Something like that, probably. And then moving, whoopsie, and moving this into here. Anyway, I'm not gonna spend forever messing around with this, but you get the idea. This is basically what I did. I just kept playing around with this until I got it to look the way that I wanted it to look. Something like that. That's pretty good, right? Then you can really just duplicate the other eyeball, and then stick it over here, and then once you click the green flag, it's going to be following the same directions. So it was something pretty much like that. And although maybe I adjusted this one until it felt like he was really looking and wasn't all cross-eyed or something. That's pretty close to whatever it was. Anyways, you can see you can mess around with things like this. It's relatively easy to do. Now, I know it took me some time to get it just the way that I wanted, but there really wasn't anything very complicated at all about it. It was just a little bit of fun that you can mess around with just a few lines of code and messing around with stuff. So I want to encourage you to try things and mess around with things too. Alrighty, folks, that's it for this one. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.